It's the birth brief, evidence, experience, and everything in between. I am your host and doula, Emily Paul. It's Monday. That means we talk about moms. Let's get started. Okay, this first one comes to us from Reddit r/baby bumps. When did you tell your employer/colleagues you are pregnant? Any regrets about your decision? Here's the scoop. I'm 18 weeks into the baby on board adventure, and I'm contemplating whether to drop the pregnancy bomb on my coworkers and boss. Legally covered? Check. Very smart. Good for you for checking. Still, I've heard whispers of pregnancy related oddities in the workplace. Kind of oddities. Not your everyday unicorn sighting, but not Bigfoot rare either. Initially, I was all for rocking the oversized tent look and keeping my soon to be mom status a state secret. Okay, let's figure out why. But then the universe delivered reasons why I might need to let the cat out of the bag sooner. Number one, my frequent flyer miles are growing faster than my baby bump. Okay, and those plane rides are becoming Olympic level exhaustion sessions. All right, so she travels for her job and it's starting to wear her out. And, flying is exhausting. Flying pregnant, I can only imagine. Two, I had a presentation that went down in history as the world's worst word scramble game. Oh no. Pregnancy fog, it's a real thing. Yes, it is a real thing. And lastly, my job's all about smooth transition of projects. Good. Sounds like you work for an efficient company, and I want enough runway for this to happen. Man, she's got like tons of metaphors. I love it. Okay, however, let's flip the pancake and address the other side of the equation. The what ifs. All right, here we go. Why is she wanting to let the cat out of the bag? What if I spill the beans and find myself bypassed on promotion day? Good question, fair question, one that a lot of women ask. What if bonuses suddenly start to dodge me like I'm carrying a garlic necklace? Well, if your bonuses are vampires, then you definitely have something to worry about, but let's keep looking and see what else the issues may be. In the grand finale, what if my job role turns into a pumpkin at midnight? So if your job role is Cinderella, again, something I would be worried about, but let's again keep going with this and see what's going on. So, dear friends, if any of you have navigated these uncharted pregnancy waters, your tales of wisdom would be pure gold. All right, so it is uncharted for her as of writing this. Now, this is a couple of years old. However, what she's concerned about is absolutely evergreen. Women deal with it every day, so I'm sticking with it. So while it is uncharted for her, it is not uncharted for other women. We have been through this and we can definitely give some insight. First of all, I would say the same thing that makes you legally covered includes your job. And I think you know that. I think you're talking about the FMLA, the Family Medical Leave Act, and that you see that your job is protected. It doesn't protect all women. We will be talking about that on Wednesday's episode, as well as other laws and policies about being pregnant in the workplace. Because I think you've checked all these things, your concerns are not about losing your job. You don't say that. You are worried about promotion, bonuses, and your job role, because you know that while your job specifically may not be protected, your job role going back into a similar position should be protected, because your employer does need to continue to run the company even in your absence. So sometimes women don't come back to the exact same job that they left, but in theory, they should come back to a very similar job. All right, so Here's what I would say. You're worried about promotion and pay raises and the job role. You're worried about things that are not as outright and obvious as you just losing your job because you're pregnant. And very rarely are things that obvious and evident. And based on what you have written and how you have written it, I can tell that you're pretty smart and that you are thinking ahead. I've got two concerns. One is that I don't know if this is a concern based on evidence that you have seen directly from your employer, or if it is because of these unicorn sightings that are not Bigfoot rare, right? Things that you have heard and you're planning and you are making sure that you are protected in the future. Both are smart regardless, but they are going to change the way that you approach these things. We don't want to create problems where there are none, but we certainly want to be prepared. So, what I would say is that you want to keep a prospectus of yourself because you are an employee and you are an investment that your company is making in its resources, specifically its human resources, and they need to see a return on their investment. So you want to keep up with things that you are doing in ways that you are beneficial to this company. You want to do that whether you are pregnant or not because you do want a raise and you do want promotions. And these are going to be things that you are going to go to the negotiating table with to let your provider, to let your employer know that you are worth keeping and not messing around with. Another thing is that I hope this does not happen, in the event that something does happen where you feel like you are being discriminated against or that there is some sort of retaliation, conscious or otherwise, you want to bring data to the table to your manager when you bring it up with your manager or your boss, to human resources when you bring it up to them. And if you have to go outside of the company, that you have data and you can show these are the things that I did. This is the quality and the quantity that I produced. And this is what I did before and after having baby. And you can see with the data, with what you are keeping track of, whether or not there is a change. And for these really nuanced things, where it's like, oh man, was I passed up for that promotion because I had this baby and I'm spending more time with my baby and less time with my other baby, this company? Or is it that somebody else really deserved that promotion over me, right? You will have data to help you back that up. Another thing, if you are legitimately concerned about your employer, document the transition that you are putting into place, making sure that you have enough runway, right? Document what you guys have agreed upon, document the things that you have done to meet your end of the bargain in that transition, and who you talked with, what you said, and on what day, okay? As well as the things that you have done. That's the best that you can do. Sounds to me like you're planning for the worst, which is smart, but don't necessarily expect the worst. Expect the best, but plan for the worst, right? Next is that I don't know if you are expecting perfection or if your employer is expecting perfection, because you say, I had a presentation that went down in history as the world's worst word scramble game, which I love. I I just I get it. If you listen to any of my episodes long enough, you will see that I too participate in the world's worst word scramble game, right? I would explain broadly. You are 18 weeks pregnant. You are nearly halfway through your gestation, and the time is coming soon. So you're not ready. In the meantime, you can explain broadly that something is going on or that you're starting to get exhausted and you need to slow down a little bit. Let's back a little bit off if possible. What kind of arrangements can we make so that I'm not flying so much? Can I Zoom instead? Can we make this accommodation for me? And if you're in the meeting and you start messing up your words, you're having a hard time thinking thoughts, as I like to say, I would just start by saying, "Hey, everybody, just so you know, I am trying for the world champion for the worst word scramble game. Look, there, I just did it, right?" Make it funny. And in that way, you are telling them, "Look, I need an accommodation." And you're not using the word accommodation, and you're not really making a demand. You're saying, "Hey, here's an issue. Please be patient with me. I'll fix it." Right? I would definitely deal with this with work specifically. If you are around other moms who understand, or if you are in a firm of women who also understand, not all women do, but if you are in a firm that does understand, then this is kind of a non-issue for you. And also 18 weeks is pretty far along. I don't know why you want to keep it a state secret. You're going to have to tell them pretty soon if you want enough runway, right? So it's not a question of if you'll tell them, it's a question of when you'll tell them. So I would definitely get started on practicing what you are going to tell them. You also indicate that you travel for work. I don't know if you speak with your boss directly, person to person, or if you speak to this person over email. I would not tell them in email that you are pregnant. I wouldn't tell them via text. I would tell them directly because one, it's going to be very difficult for them to say no to you or for you to have a less favorable outcome if they have to tell you directly to your face what you don't want to hear. So, while it may be uncomfortable for you, while it may be uncomfortable for them, actually being in person, face to face, tends to have a more favorable outcome for you when you make requests or negotiations. Another thing is that I don't know what you look like 18 weeks pregnant, but a lot of women are starting to show by this point, and women wearing baggy clothes is kind of a telltale sign. So your employers may have been polite enough not to say anything. Your coworkers may have been polite enough not to say anything to you. But I would not be surprised if they've asked amongst themselves if you're pregnant. And it's not their business, really. But it is something that I would share with them, especially if their workload is going to be affected. And who knows, you may find that they are just really, really supportive. Okay, next we have this from Glassdoor. Project manager says, "Hi, I'm pregnant. This should be an exciting time, but my workplace has made it an extremely anxiety provoking. Oh, wait, has made it extremely anxiety provoking. Now I'm stuck between a job I have come to fear, and the maternity leave benefits the company offers. Oh, no. I don't know what to do, honestly. Looking for advice, no trolls. This has been very hard. Oh my gosh, bless your heart." There was some really good advice on this, and it's advice that I agree with, but a lot of people have gotten to the very practical part of it. What I would do if you were my client or my friend is find out why you're anxious. Were you already anxious because this is not a great place to work in your pregnancy and telling people about it has exacerbated an already crummy situation? Or is it that you are concerned about telling them that you're pregnant and that, like the previous poster, you're going to be treated differently? I'll tell her the same thing that I told you, that you need to document, keep track of how you are beneficial to them. It's crummy, but when you go to talk to them about you being pregnant, you're not really talking about yourself. You're talking to them about them and how you affect that. So you need to make it about how you are still beneficial to them, because ultimately these two things seem to be concerned with, are we expendable? Broadly speaking, in terms of work, yeah, any employee can be replaced, but you are not expendable when it comes to society, right? You are not expendable because without childbirth, without childcare, without mothers, we don't have humanity or a workforce. That's just the truth of it. There's nothing fluffy about it. Without what you're doing, there will not continue to be people around. That's something that I would go in. into any conversation or negotiation knowing about yourself, and I would come to the table as an equal, not as an equal in decision making, but as an equal in giving and production. That's how I would approach that. One person does say, if your due date is soon and you can get it out until you can go on maternity leave, I'd say do that. 100%, I say do that. Stay with the company if you can, because in the US, being pregnant is not a life changing event that will allow you to get on insurance. However, having a baby is a life changing event, same as adoption and getting married. So, if you leave your job and you have insurance, you may not have insurance after you leave that job. You will not have the other benefits. So, I would say stick it out if you can. If you cannot see yourself doing this, then you're going to have to make a decision about whether or not you can get care covered, you can afford to take care of the medical bills that may come with it. There's a lot of decisions to make. The easiest one is to be employed while you have a very expensive life event happening. Another person does say that they think that you can look for another job while you're on maternity leave. That's true. I think it's a little short-sighted. It can be very difficult to do anything other than take care of a newborn when you have a newborn. That really is also going to depend on your financial situation, the stressors that you have, and whether or not you have support. So I would be very conscientious and not just think, oh, I've got 3 months off. I've got three. No, you don't. You have 3 months of taking care of a newborn, which can be very difficult, especially depending on the resources and the support that you have. So, putting out feelers now, as a different person said, might make a lot more sense than doing it on maternity leave. Okay. Another thing that I would recommend to you is to check out the new Modern Mom article, How to Tell Your Boss You're Pregnant. She has really great advice about laws and policies, being pregnant in the workplace and having a newborn and being a lactating mother. These are topics that we will cover in next episode on Wednesday in far more detail. So I definitely recommend that you check it out, link in show notes. And I would like to add to her advice that while she does say that logistics matter, to be ready to talk about due dates, workload, hands off, etc., here's where I want to add nuance. While it is very professional of you to plan, it is not your responsibility to staff a company. So ultimately, staffing a company falls on the company itself. So don't break yourself trying to find your replacement. Certainly help with the transition, but at the end of the day, they have to make sure that they have employees that are covering the workload, not you. That's why you're not the owner. That's why you're not the manager, right? New Modern Mom also has a 4-step plan. Essentially, it's positive statement, announcement, addressing concerns, reassurance to work together to plan your absence. What I would like to add to this, I actually do think that she mentions it, is to practice it if you need to. Practice the conversation that you're going to have with your employer. No different than practicing for a job interview. Practice with another person, get their insight. They probably know your situation far more intimately than I do or that she does. Or practice in the mirror. That's really going to help build your confidence. And while it's crummy that you being pregnant is about you, telling your employer is actually about them. So you want to continue to be a resource for them because you are an investment and they want returns on their investment. You are a human resource that they are investing in. You want to let them know that you are still beneficial to them. Now, that does it for this episode of the Birth Brief. Check us out on Wednesday for the more legal techie part of it, the Family Medical Leave Act and breastfeeding at work. Until then, stay grounded, and I'll see you later this week.